Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Know About Embedded Systems. So in today's video, we're going to understand how LIN protocol works in the automotive. So LIN protocol is also very important in automotive applications such as your door control module, window control module, seat adjustment, and climate control, wiper control, so power window control. These are all the various applications of the LIN protocol. And how this LIN protocol is, how the LIN protocol works in automotive, that part we'll see in today's video. So if you're a new viewer to my channel, kindly subscribe my YouTube channel and click on bell icon, share these videos to your friends and colleagues, and click on like button as well. Let us start the video, how LIN protocol works. You know that already. The LIN stands for Local Interconnected Network. It uses only one single wire. This is a very big advantage of LIN. Only one single wire it will use, and it's a low cost compared to CAN, Ethernet, FlexRay. This is the first important point you should know. The LIN is a single wire protocol, I told you already. It uses a master-slave based communication. So that means in a LIN we'll have one master and multiple slaves. And up to 15 slaves you're able to connect. You can see here, up to 15 slaves you're able to connect. And applications, as I told you already, door locking mechanism, seat adjustment, wiper, mirror, and so on. Operating speed would be around 20 Kbps. It is very low compared to CAN and Ethernet, but still this is more than enough for our door controlling and window controlling applications. Maximum length is up to 40 meter. 40 meter up to it is able to transmit, and data able to transmit 2, 4, and 8 bytes. It's possible to transmit 2 byte, 4 byte, and 8 bytes. Operating voltage 12 volts or 24 volts. Standard is 12 volts, and also it will support a sleep mode and wake up mode. So these are all very important features of your LIN protocol. So LIN uses a master and slave based communication. LIN bus will have one master and up to 15 different slaves and one single wire. So this is the simplified block diagram of a LIN bus. LIN master and multiple slaves, up to 15 slaves, and we will have one LIN bus. Single wire LIN bus. Now if you see this, how it works. So what is the role of a master or a master ECU or a master node? The master node will control the communication of the bus, like how the communication should happen, at what bit rate, and which slave has to communicate, and how many bytes of data you have to your slave has to transmit. All those things will be taken care by master node. So once master initiates the communication, so what master will do, master will send out a header which will includes identification number. So here you can see the master, whenever you want to communicate from master to slave, the first master will initiate the communication by sending the header. So in this header we will have 3 points. So one will be a break field. So there will be 3 important points. One will be break field, one will be sync field, and one will be identifier or protected ID, PID we will call. So we will have 3 informations: break field, sync field, and protected ID, PID. Okay, nothing but identifier. So once the master sends a header that includes the identification number, so slave is going to recognize this PID. That means once the master is transmitted a header along with the PID. PID is nothing but protected ID, or you can understand message ID. Okay, so once the master sends a header with a message ID, protected ID, what slave will do? Slave is going to recognize that particular message ID or a protected ID. The slave node listens for the header from the master, and whenever slave node recognizes an identifier, so that means each LIN slave will be assigned with one particular message ID, or maybe more than one also, it is fine. So whenever your LIN slave detects particular message ID, let us assume this slave ID is having something called 12. Okay, so whenever your message ID is transmitting 12, so that means your particular slave is going to be identified, and message ID is matched, and once the message ID is matched, your slave is going to respond with the data. So this point, whatever you are seeing, so this is called response phase or a response segment. In this response segment, you are able to transmit 2 bytes to 8 bytes of data. You're able to transmit from slave to master. Okay, so this is how the communication will happen in a LIN master to slave. So master to slave, only the header information will be transmitted. From slave to master, actual data will be transmitted. Okay, we will see how the LIN frame looks like. This is also very important. So two important things: you should know the block diagram and its working, and second thing, LIN frame also you should know. So already block diagram we have understood. So we will have a LIN master. LIN master will transmit in header. Header will consist of three important fields. That's what I told here. You can see the LIN master will have will transmit three important parameter, that is called as these three: break field, sync field, protected ID. Three information your master will transmit, and once that particular ID, once the message ID or protected ID is identified by the slave, and that particular slave is going to give the response by sending data bytes along with the checksum. So this, whatever you're saying, this is your response. So response will have two important things: up to 8 bytes of data plus one checksum. So what all this, that we will discuss one by one. Okay, so I hope this is also clear. LIN frame, as I told you already, broadly the LIN frame has been divided into two parts. One is called header and one is called as response. So header, as already I told, header will have three important information. One is the break field, sync field, and protected ID. And on the other hand, we'll have a response. Response usually will be given from the slave side. So you should know important thing: master to slave, and here slave to master. The response usually will be given from the slave to master. Header information will be transmitted from master to slave, and the response will be given from the slave to master. This information you should know. Now we will see one by one the important segments of the frame. The first one is called as a break field. So break field means, what do you mean by break field? In a simple word, when I say in break field, the break field is nothing but that's the start of frame. If you go for other protocols such as UART, SPI, I2C, and CAN protocol, so in these protocols we have something called a start of bit or a start of frame. In all, even CAN also we have, I2C also we have, and even in a UART also we have start of field. Like in our LIN, it's a slightly different. Instead of start of frame, we are going to use something called as break field. The break field is nothing but it is a start of frame only. Okay, the last point, if you observe here, see here, it recognizes as a start of frame. Okay, so break field is nothing but start of frame, but slightly it is different from other protocol. The break field is a kind of a wake up call, nothing but a start of a frame to all the slaves. The break field is a first part of a LIN message header, which serves as a wake up call to all the slaves. This is the first point you should remember. Second point is, this break field will have 13 dominant bits followed by one delimiter. This is also very important, how the break field looks like. The break field looks like 13 dominant bits, nothing but 13 zeros and 1 1. So that means, so if you write it like this, 13 number of zeros plus followed by one recessive bit. So this is how it looks like your break field, or you can say it's a start of frame. Okay, and the last point, if we observe here, the break field is considered as a start of frame to the slaves. So whenever slave detects a low signal of 13 bits or 13 dominant bit, the slave is going to recognize that particular field as start of frame, and your slave should get ready to transmit a data. Okay, so this is called as break field. The second field called as a sync field, the one which I'm going to highlight right now, the sync field, this one. So sync field we will call. So what do you mean by this sync field? So in your LIN protocol, we don't use any clock to transmit a data, and exclusively baud rate also we will not design from master to slave. We will design only to the master but not to the slaves. So that's why we're going to use something called as a sync field, and this sync field is nothing but it's a 8-bit information which will have a 5 and nothing but 01 01 and 01 01. This information 01 and 01 01 01, whatever you're seeing here, the same thing we are going to transmit as a sync field. With the help of this bit pattern, your slave is going to recognize the bit rate or a baud rate, and according to the master baud rate, your slave baud rate will get adjusted. For this purpose, we're going to use sync field. The name itself says that sync field is used to synchronize the slaves. Next important thing in our LIN frame is it's called as a PID. It's also called as protected ID. So PID stands for protected ID, and this protected ID is an 8-bit. Here you can see. So this is your 8-bit of data. Out of 8 bits, 6 bits are used for message ID. So 6 bits are used for message ID, and 2 bits are used for parity check. Okay, what is that? I'll be explaining after this. So this is called as parity. We have two important informations in the protected ID. The first one is called as a message ID. We're going to use 6 bits 0 to 5, and then we're going to use a parity 0 and parity 1 as a 6th bit and 7th bit. So what is the significance? Now we will see. So protected identification number will have two fields, as I already told. So we'll have two important parameters in the PID, nothing but protected ID. You can see here the bit 0 to bit 5 are frame identifier or a message identifier. Bit number 6 and bit number 7 are used for parity. This is what I told just now, right? So we'll have two bits for parity P0 and P1, and then we'll have 6 bits, that's ID number 0 to ID number 5. 6 bits are reserved for your message identification or a frame identification. So based on this 6 identification number, the numbering for each frame or message frame has been divided like this. So this is the frame numbering. 0 to 59 are used for signal carrying informations or signal carrying frames. Then ID number 60 and 61 are used for diagnostic purpose. 62 and 63 are used for reserved for a future application. So, and then one more interesting thing with the protected ID is the bytes, or you can say data length. So data length, there is no specific field for defining the data length here, like how we have in a CAN. In CAN we have DLC, that stands for data length code, but in our LIN there is no exclusive field mentioned for data length or a number of bytes to be transmitted or received, but instead of that it is internally defined in a identification number. How you can see here, if you're using the frame ID 0 to 31, so 0 to 31 IDs are able to carry only 2 bytes of information, right? If you're using any ID between 0 to 31, 2 bytes of information. Then whenever you're using 32 to 47, 4 bytes of information. Whenever you're using 4082, 63, 8 bytes of information. Like this, each message identification number or a frame identification number is having its own data length. 0 to 31, 2 bytes, 32 to 47, it is 4 bytes, then 4082, 63, 8 bytes of information. So this is very important with respect to the LIN frame. And till here, so as I already explained, from bit field, some break field to protected ID, till here it is called as an header. I hope you are clear. Now, now the response will start after transmitting a protected ID. So now the second part of your frame will start, that is called as response. So response, again we will have two parts in the response. One will be data and one will be your checksum. Okay, so in the response phase we'll have two fields, one is data field and one is checksum field. So what is this data field stands for? Data field stands for a frame which will carry the 2 bytes to 8 bytes of information in the bytes field or in the data field. So once a header is defined and one particular slave is identified its number, and that one particular slave will respond along with the bytes of information, along with the data to the master. As you know that already, if your ID is matching from 0 to 31, it's 2 byte, 32 to 47, it's 4 byte, 48 to 63, it is 8 bytes of information. Like this, the frames are defined with an identification number with a number of bytes. Now, the last point, that is called as a checksum. So what do you mean by checksum and why it is used? Every protocol, especially automotive protocols, we will use checksum. In our CAN also we have checksum, and in LIN also we have checksum. So what is the use of this checksum? If you see a definition of this checksum, checksum is used to ensure the data integrity by detecting the errors in the transmission which are causing due to the noise. There are two different ways of calculating checksum based on the LIN version. So we have LIN versions. One is a classical version and one is an enhanced version. Based on your requirement, based on your LIN setup, we can calculate the checksum. The checksum can be calculated by this way. You can see here. It is nothing but an inverted 8-bit sum with the carry of all the bytes. So that means if you see whatever here, we have, let us assume we have 8 bytes of data. You need to add those. So we have 8 bytes of data. You have to add 8 bytes of data with carry, and we have to invert them after addition. So we will get sum, and that we have to invert them is called as a checksum. This is called classical checksum, and we have something called as enhanced checksum. In case of enhanced checksum, we're going to add PID as well. 8 bytes of data plus PID. So 9 bytes we're going to add in case of enhanced checksum. Now if you observe here, this is my checksum calculation method. Checksum is equal to data byte 0 to data byte number 7. Add it, the summation of data byte 0 to data byte 7, then you need to negate it. So this is called checksum calculation in the LIN. This is the classical way, and we have second part in case of enhanced version, the same process, but we're going to add one more parameter that is called as PID, nothing but our protected ID. So data 0 up to data 7 plus PID, then negate it. So this is called as enhanced checksum calculation. So I hope this video is an informative video. If you feel this video is an informative video, please click on like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on bell icon, and share these videos to your friends and colleagues.